Today, we're thrifting for the smallest bedroom in my home, so every decision has to be really strategic. Hello friends, this week we are on a mission to find everything we can for a small guest bedroom makeover. We'll be hitting multiple thrift stores and looking for budget-friendly pieces that maximize space, storage, and function. I'll be sharing lots of decorating inspo along the way, plus a little sneak peek of my plans and overall vision for the space. Let's head in and see what we can find. So when working with a small room, I like to focus on the essentials first and build from there. AKA, what furniture or larger pieces does the room actually need to function and how much space will it take up? This room is 9 by 9.5 feet, which works out to be just 86 square feet total. It also needs to fit our existing double bed, a nightstand, and ideally some extra clothing storage. I'm also hoping to fit my favorite vanity in there if there's room. And style-wise, I'm leaning very vintage, kind of boho with a bit of grandma chic. Now, I totally freaked out when I saw this stunning teak mid-century set. The lowboy dresser is definitely too big for the space, but look at these nightstands. Not only are they smaller in scale, but they've also got the extra storage, which is ideal. Furniture that's raised off the floor and less bottom heavy also gives the illusion of more usable floor space. This keeps a room feeling open and airy, which is key in small rooms. Now, unfortunately, it turns out this set had already sold, which explains why there was no price. And I'll admit, I took a little moment to grieve, but then I was right back on the hunt. On a side note, look at this absolutely gorgeous antique sideboard. It must have been sold as well since there wasn't a price, but it would be perfect in something like an entryway, as a dining buffet, even just as a living room sideboard or against the back of a couch. And Wayfair actually has a similar one selling for over $6,000, so finding this here feels like a win. I didn't end up grabbing anything on this trip, but that's okay because we have lots more to hit up. And spoiler alert, I ended up coming back here 2 more times. Furniture is one of those bigger commitment pieces, and especially with thrifting, it can take a few different stops before you find the right piece. At this point, I was seeing a lot of dressers and a few nightstands, but some of them felt pretty bulky and just too deep for the space. I was picturing something a little slimmer that wouldn't eat up too much floor space. I did come across these 2 smaller tables that I considered, but I would definitely have to refinish them, and I just wasn't sold. Okay, so the next day, I went back for round 2 at Habitat for Humanity, and I'm so glad I didn't settle. Look at this cute little vintage parlor table. This is exactly the kind of piece I see all the time at antique stores, and those spindle legs give it so much vintage charm. Honestly, even though it's not the original wood, I'm kind of digging this color. What do you guys think? And you guys, third time was definitely the charm. Look at this adorable little glass wood bookcase. I am obsessed. It definitely needs a little bit of TLC, but I think it's the perfect size for the small bedroom. Also, it's not even a foot deep, so it'll barely take up any floor space. Pieces like this are so flexible and can be used in lots of different ways beyond just display. For the bedroom, I'm thinking I might stick some extra linens in there and maybe some guest towels, but I'll have to see once I start organizing everything. Also, they were actually having a store-wide 30% off sale for Earth Day, which I was not aware of. I literally cannot believe this was only $14. I was totally willing to pay $20, so I am very happy right now. Now I just have to decide how I'm going to refinish it. Definitely let me know your thoughts on this one. Okay, so I've locked in the main furniture pieces, and now that I know how much surface area I'm working with, I can start to source other decor that actually fits the scale. Next, I'm focusing on lighting. Now, in small spaces especially, using multiple light sources can really make a big difference. It's going to help eliminate those dark corners and just visually expand the space. You can also create different layers of light, for example, task, accent, and ambient, which make a room feel more balanced overall. Now, the parlor table has a smaller surface area, so I need to make sure the light source is proportionate in size and isn't going to be overpowering. Most options I was seeing in the beginning were either too tall or too wide, so this also took me a couple of trips. I did see these really pretty brass ones and even tried a different shade, but they were still just a bit too tall. Plus, I only need one for this room, and I know someone else will really appreciate finding the full set together. Luckily, this Value Village had a ton of slimmer lamp bases and a great selection of shades. I ended up finding this brand new pleated one for just $4.99. And funny enough, I actually thrifted a similar one a while ago and I have it in our kitchen corner. These skinny base lamps are perfect for small surfaces because they have a lighter visual weight. This helps keep a bit of negative space and allows other decor to stand out without feeling crowded. Now I am still looking for a sconce because I want to put one in the corner to kind of brighten things up, but I want to get some of the wall decor up first and make sure it really fits the space. And now I'm moving on to what I like to call the fluff pieces. I'm talking about pillows, blankets, baskets, and I'm also hoping to find some sort of cushiony seating for the vanity. Now, I am still going back and forth on the paint color, but I found that sometimes picking out a few decor pieces first actually makes that decision a lot easier. Either way, I want the room to stick within an earthy color palette, so I'm really just looking for anything that fits within the same tonal variation and is also flexible with the rest of my home, since I'm always shifting things around. So I'm at the Mission thrift store, and let me just say, this was a really good stop. This lace pillow was in mint condition and it was only $2.99. Lace can be pretty pricey these days, so this was a steal. It's small, easy to move around, and adds just the right amount of soft texture without overpowering anything. I also couldn't resist this one, only $2.99, plus I have a brown obsession. Pottery Barn actually has something really similar on clearance right now for $55. And you guys, only $1.99 for this bolster pillow. I'm actually thinking I might want it for my couch, but I'll have to play around with everything once the room is more set up. I've found with pillows, you really have to test out different combinations, and I'm constantly switching them in and out, so I don't mind picking up a bit of a surplus. Okay, now look at this basket. You could do so much with this. It would look great in a little corner with some pillows and blankets. You could flip it over and turn it into a nightstand. This style of basket can also go for lots of money, so I was really happy getting it for only $3.99. Now this one I didn't get for the bedroom, but I just had to show you guys because it's such a rare find. This is a hand-woven vintage bamboo basket, and I could immediately tell how well it's made just from how sturdy it is. I also found an almost identical one listed for $177, which is kind of crazy. Right now, I have it in my living room corner, and I think it's just perfect. Now, I'm still on the hunt for some sort of small seating. I want it to be able to tuck away under the vanity and ideally have some extra storage. This little ottoman was only $2.99, and I thought about reupholstering it, but I didn't grab it in the end. I've also seen a few options on Marketplace, but the ones I like don't have that extra storage. So I'm gonna give myself a bit more time, and hopefully I can nail something down in the next couple weeks. I'll be updating you in my makeover video. Alright, now let's talk walls, because vertical decor is especially important in small spaces. Mirrors are a big one for this because they reflect light and make a space feel larger than it actually is. Now, I'm planning on using my gold mirror that I DIY'd and possibly my smaller one that I thrifted a while back, but I haven't fully decided yet. I'm also keeping an eye out for things like floating shelves and wall hooks. They're great for keeping things off the floor and helping a room feel more open. Now, I thought these spoon racks were really cool. The prices were a bit higher than I wanted to pay, but I've actually seen people repurpose these for dried florals, and I think it's such a great idea, especially in a small space. It's really the perfect way to add that earthy texture without taking up any extra room. Now, I looked everywhere, but I wasn't finding anything that stood out. Either the proportions felt off, or it just didn't fit the vision I have for the room. I'm picturing something like a small vintage shelf, and ideally some individual hooks instead of a full rack. Hopefully I can manifest those in the next couple of weeks. For now, I'm shifting my focus to one of my favorite small space decorating hacks, and that's creating a gallery wall. I love them because they add visual interest and also give the eyes something to move across. This is going to help draw the attention away from the limited floor space. And it must have been my lucky week because I hit the jackpot. This little vintage oil painting was only $4.99. I usually only see pieces this size online, and they're so perfect for filling in those little gaps. Now I'm kind of wondering if I should have grabbed this one too. Turns out it's a popular ballet piece by Sophie Fashion Plate and considered a collectible. I just thought $8.99 was a little steep, but maybe I missed out. I'll wait to hear from you guys on this one. And speaking of steep prices, I'm sorry, but $79 for this? I think that's the highest price I've ever seen on a picture at a thrift store. On the flip side, I was pretty happy when I found this oval frame. I'll probably swap out the print for something a bit more subtle, but the shape has so much potential. I also picked up this guy. You can tell it's vintage just from those rusty nails on the back, and I love that it has a little hanging hook at the top. At this point, I was feeling pretty good about my collection. At the Salvation Army, I grabbed this lovely vintage print for just $3.99, and I also grabbed a couple of regular frames that I'll be using for a little DIY coming up. Okay, we're back at Mission Thrift, and the first thing I noticed was this pile of prints. Each one was only 99 cents, and this one actually reminds me of a bridge in Halifax where I grew up. I also grabbed this one since I can never say no to a sailboat. So I almost kept these as is, but I wanted to experiment a little. I mixed a few different craft paints with water and lightly filled in the features to create a really simple watercolor effect. And I'll admit, I was originally only going to use one color, but I kind of got carried away just enjoying the process. And that's really my favorite part about this. There are so many different ways you could approach it. You could stick to paint, use colored pencils, or even just a regular pencil for a bit of shading. It's such an easy way to add a personal touch without needing to be a professional artist since the framework is already there. You can also find tons of vintage style sketches on Etsy. I'm really liking how they turned out, especially in these frames, and I can't wait to see how everything comes together in the gallery wall. Okay, now we can't forget about arguably the most important layer, and that's all the little details that give a room its personality. Things like candles, keepsakes, little trinkets and trays. Not only are these the most flexible, but they're also the easiest to swap in and out, so you can change up the look of a room with very little commitment. Now, some of you might remember this clock. Last year, I had major window shopper's remorse over not grabbing a pretty much identical one for $13.99, but it looks like the universe had better plans because this one was only $7.99. Transparent decor is perfect in small spaces because it doesn't visually block a room in the same way that a solid piece can. This is going to add visual interest and keep a room feeling light and open. I also scored these brand new taper candles for just 79 cents each. And candles are one of those thrift finds. If they're new, I always grab them since I go through them all the time. And speaking of candles, I've been trying to manifest an affordable brass candle snuffer for ages. And you guys, I found two of them sitting side by side. They looked like a cute little bonded pair, and I just didn't have the heart to separate them. One is definitely going to go in the bedroom, but you'll have to help me decide which one because I'm honestly so torn. And don't underestimate the little trinkets because they can still have a big impact. I mean, I couldn't not take this little sailboat home for obvious reasons. Now, she was looking like she'd seen a few rough storms and was even coming apart on one side, so naturally I pulled out the craft paint and glue. This project was also inspired by the Blue Nose. And I kept this one super simple by just using some Scotch tape for even lines and then loosely following the original details as much as I could. And a little side note, a Sharpie pen worked surprisingly well for mimicking those seams. And just like that, she's looking all spiffied up and ready to sail. Well, ready to sail in the guest bedroom, that is. Okay, so I feel like we're in a really good place now. I still have to choose a paint color and find a few missing pieces, but overall, I'm really happy with the direction so far. Get ready because my next video will be the full makeover, and you'll get to see the entire transformation from start to finish. I'll also be tackling this bookcase and a few other surprises that I'm really excited about. Well, I hope you enjoyed this special thrift edition. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the makeover. Well, I hope you enjoyed this special thrift edition. Of course. Can Can you please get off?